Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about 2002's Reign of Fire, starring Christian Bale as Quinn. In Reign of Fire, a brood of fire-breathing dragons emerge from the earth and set everything ablaze. And so we have Reign of Fire. So guys, this is a film that I watched when I was a kid, and I remembered absolutely loving it. I remember thinking the performances were good, the action was good, the effects were amazing, and I haven't actually watched this movie since first watching it, but a little while ago, a YouTube channel called Corridor Crew did an effects breakdown on some movies, and one of them was Reign of Fire, and they talked about a couple of things in the production, and mainly the effects, which made me really want to watch this film again, and I have. So what did I think of Reign of Fire the second time around? Well, to start off with, I don't think this movie was as good as I remembered it being. Maybe it was the fact that I built it up so much over the years, and I remember it being absolutely amazing, that maybe my nostalgia for it has overplayed it just a little bit. But let's not say this is a bad movie. In fact, let's just go over what makes this movie so good. First of all, Christian Bale, he gives a really good performance in this film. It's not exactly his most layered or his most convoluted of characters, but it's certainly a character that really gets you through the story. He has this nice blend of optimism, whilst at the same time he really understands the reality of the world they live in. So while he's telling everyone to have hope, at the same time he's being extremely cautious, and he cares about everyone that is within his group. And really, Christian Bale makes a great lead for an action film. Then of course we have Gerard Butler, who actually I'd forgotten was in this film, and he plays the comic relief in the movie. In a world full of fire-breathing dragons, despair, depression, there always has to be someone to kind of lift everyone's spirits, and that's the role that Gerard Butler takes in this film. Granted, not every single one of his lines gets a laugh out of you, but it's just the character's overwhelming optimism that really kind of makes him outstanding. And granted, the lines that do get you are quite funny. But really, for me, the most standout performance in Reign of Fire had to be Matthew McConaughey, who, when I first saw this film, didn't really know who Matthew McConaughey was. I always just thought of him as the American geezer in Reign of Fire. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that I found out that Matthew McConaughey was in this film. And even though I remember this character being really awesome, I kind of forgot what he looked like, or even what he sounded like. And it made me kind of wonder, did Matthew McConaughey do an accent or something for this film? Something to really make himself blend into the role and make him look somewhat unrecognisable. And so when I was rewatching this film, I was waiting to hear him speak. And I found out that he was pretty much just doing a usual Matthew McConaughey voice. Which, don't get me wrong, Matthew McConaughey is a really good actor, but he's not exactly one who really ventures outside of his comfort zone when it comes to accents. I mean, take someone like Tommy Lee Jones, who's been in the business for decades. Can you name a film where he does anything other than his usual accent? Granted, there are probably roles where he does step outside his comfort zone, but for the most part, Tommy Lee Jones just does, well, Tommy Lee Jones. And that's kind of the same thing for Matthew McConaughey. So when I did hear Matthew McConaughey's character speak, it did kind of take me out of the role for a little bit, but literally for just about half a minute. I mean, once this guy gets going, he just does not stop. He's an absolute beast. The way he conducts himself around his men, the way he actually conducts himself around hunting dragons, just everything about this character just screams badass. So basically, there's no complaints when it comes to the performances. All the performances are really good. Not exactly amazing Oscar-worthy ones, but definitely ones that do, I would say, excel the source material that this movie provides. And just before starting this film, I looked at its score on IMDb, and I saw that it had a somewhat low score. And I remember this film being really amazing, and I was just kind of wondering why it's got such a low score. And when it came to watching the movie, I think I understood it a bit more. First of all, I would say that this movie is a little bit misadvertised. And for me, this mainly comes from the poster. Now, I haven't seen the trailers, so maybe this movie is appropriately advertised. But if you're just judging it on purely just the poster, it is a little bit misadvertised. Because looking at the poster, you'd think it's going to be this epic battle in London between humans and dragons, and only the strongest will survive. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. It's more of the aftermath of the Great War that the dragons and humans fought. And now it's a desperate bid to survive from not just the humans, but the dragons as well, as both species are pretty much just brought to the absolute brink of extinction. And honestly, you don't really see that many dragons. Honestly, except for pretty much a shot towards the end of the film, for the most part, you only really see 2 or 3 dragons. But I would say that definitely kind of works in the film's favour, because really this film had quite a limited budget, and probably the CGI effects for 2002 wouldn't have made these dragons look as good as they probably could have done. So instead, they scale it back a bit, they have fewer dragons so they can focus on making the dragons that they have look better. And I gotta say, the effects really hold up for this film. Granted, they're not super amazing, they could probably touch up a couple of the details, and sometimes the lighting's a bit off on them, but for the most part, these dragons look incredible. They look menacing, terrifying, and pretty much just all-round scary. Basically, the effects look really good. And apparently I heard that for this movie, they went through 8 tons of propane. I mean, you gotta imagine being a producer for this film and hearing that you need a budget for 8 tons of propane. You gotta just say to yourself, man, that sounds like an awesome movie. And you know what? At the end of the day, this is a very awesome film. And honestly, at first, I did expect a little bit more action in this film, but the action we do get is definitely very well done. And I love the way that this movie emphasizes important things. Because obviously, in a world full of flying, fire-breathing dragons, not many things are going to be in the sky. And when someone's told that there's a helicopter in the sky, they're like, nah, that's their territory. Why would you have, or how could you have a helicopter in the sky? And then as soon as it flies over, it's just this kind of triumphant feeling of hope that is just brought to you. And as well, something I actually didn't realise when I started watching this film is the year it's set in. Because obviously, the start of the film is set in 2002 when this movie was made. And then years and decades go by after the Great War of the Humans and Dragons. And then we're in the not too distant future of 2020. Oh, God. I mean, just when you think this year hasn't got enough bad things associated with it. Overall, guys, I really enjoyed this film. Granted, it wasn't as amazing as I remembered it was, but nonetheless, I still really like this film. The characters are good, the effects still hold up, the action's really good. I do wish that they actually used the tank more, because they made this big deal about having a tank, and they don't even use it. Well, I say that. They had a harpoon attached to it, and they shot a harpoon from the tank. I mean, just at least one shot from the tank, that's all I ask. But do I think you guys should see it? Absolutely. I would still really recommend this film. Just don't go into it thinking you're going to see an epic battle between man and beast where the whole world is consumed, because they kind of gloss over that at the start and then they lead you in to the kind of aftermath post-apocalyptic world. And while that world is still really interesting to see and has a nice balance of optimism and depression, you might be a little bit disappointed to find that it's a little less action-packed than you thought it would be. Nonetheless, I would still recommend watching this film. Okay guys, that's my review of Reign of Fire. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think I should watch next? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!